Hey, Leanne, thanks for meeting me here. Have you seen Bob yet?
No, I haven't, but I just got here. What are we doing here, Marianne?
I just thought it'd be neat to kind of go inside the brick. I've always wondered about it. You know, I grew up in the neighborhood and I just wanted to check it out.
Ooh, that sounds like fun. After we tour this place, we should go up to the museum and talk about it.
Buckle up. It's time for KewaneeMemoryLane, where we cruise down the 4 lanes of Kewanee history with a detour of fun uncovering the past, coming to you straight from the Kewanee Historical Society in the heart of downtown Kewanee. Here are your hosts, Marianne and Leanne.
I'm Marianne.
And I'm Leanne. Thanks for joining us again on another episode of Kewanee Memory Lane. I almost forgot the name of our show.
It's a good show, and we're glad to be back for episode 2. And Leanne, how did you guys fare in our 2 snowstorms we've had?
Yeah, Kewanee has gotten nailed. I mean, we didn't have, it was 55 for Christmas, and now it is 11 degrees, and we have, I don't know.
15 to 20 inches of snow. No, I don't know.
I don't think it was that bad, but I think it was a good 10.
Well,
Yeah.
I just got my car unstuck out of the driveway this morning.
This is
Ay,
true.
ay, ay.
Yeah, the streets are being plowed. They're taking care of it, but it's just it's a time to dig out.
I'm ready for springtime.
It's only January.
I know. Leanne, what else have you been up to?
Oh, well, I thought we would start a segment called Show and Tell.
Ooh, what have you brought with you today?
I have brought an antique trader bottle. I bet no one has seen one of these.
I have.
At least not in Kewanee. So this is like a joke at the Historical Society because we have like 15 of these, and people keep giving them to us because they're collectibles, and they are collectibles, but we have 15 of them. Well, actually, we have 14 of them because we made one into a trophy for our
First annual trivia
for our
night.
annual trivia night. So yeah, if you want to see your name on the trivia,
Get a team together, April 20th.
Yep.
So I felt like we had 50 to 100 of these,
Actually,
actually.
when we moved, I swear I packed like 100, but it was only 14 or 15.
I think I was unpacking them on purpose to fool you. So
Oh, okay. Gee, thank you. Well, anyway, the Antique Trader was printed in Kewanee. This is the front of it, and then this is the back where it shows the Antique Trader. The Antique Trader was a classified subscription shopper, and people would put classified ads in it for antiques, and
Which
then
I love.
Yes, and then the Antique Trader would be sent out to antique dealers for another way for them to purchase antiques, and so
Probably
it was like
before
a
they
shopper.
really had antique stores like we do now.
Right.
Or-
Yeah. And so I was reading an article about Ed Babka, who started the Antique Trader, and he started it in Decatur, and it took off, and he ended up having it printed here at the Star Courier and then at Mailograph here in town.
Wow.
And one of the things that was in the Antique Trader that was a collectible was collectible Jim Beam bottles. And so there would be limited edition bottles of things. I mean, I've seen like John Wayne ones and that sort of thing. And this one came out in 1968. And it says 100 months old Jim Beam Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey.
Ooh.
It is currently empty.
Is that the one that you and I finished off? Oh, sorry.
Anyway,
Kidding.
So the story that this one has an Arkansas liquor tax sticker on it. I never noticed that.
Interesting.
So it must have come from Arkansas.
Yeah.
But
Amazing
these
that
were-
they floated all over.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
there was 40,000 of them made nationally.
That is
And
crazy.
they say that Jim Beam bottles were so popular that people would follow the delivery trucks and purchase them before they could get on shelves.
That is crazy.
I like my Pyrex.
I like my Pyrex too.
I don't know that I would
Follow the
follow
truck.
the truck.
What if gooseberry was in there? You love that pattern.
I might.
I know you would.
But-
you can't lie.
Well, I'd have to have a full pocketbook at that point.
This is true. Rob? No.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I think he would say, you have too much crap.
My husband just might not know where I keep some Pyrex. So, anyway.
Don't look in the back of my car. Anyway, Marianne, did you bring something?
Oh, wait till you see what I've got.
Should I be afraid?
No, it's pretty cool. It's just big. So,
Oh my golly.
it's a replica of the old Lyle
That was
School.
probably really loud. Sorry.
Sorry. It was built. Oh gosh, it was built before 1900. I can't remember. We're in a museum, and I should remember. But Lyle Mumford, I believe. Yes, he's the one that built it, and he lived right by the school.
He built this.
He built the replica. I just
Okay.
want to be clear. Edith Johnson was retiring in 1965. She was a well-loved principal and teacher. So he built this for her, and I honestly don't know how it came to be here at the museum. That was before my time. It got donated. But I just love it because it does remind me of being there as a student. I went there kindergarten through 4th grade until it blew up.
And it blew up?
It did. June 6, 1979. I will never forget that day.
Why did it blow up?
Well, I think it was a power company boo-boo. They were doing some work, and they didn't get the gas turned off in time. And yeah.
But it happened in June.
It happened in June. There were no
Okay.
students in the building, nobody in the
God.
building. But my classroom was on the 2nd floor. It was one of the parts of the building greatly affected. There was like a gaping hole on that whole west side, and we have pictures of the building at home that I don't have with
So,
me right now.
like, did the boiler explode, or? I mean, what would cause
they were doing
that
some
much
work in the
force?
lower level, and all I know is they were getting ready to break for lunch. They forgot to turn off the gas. The gas built up, and they knew they had to run out. And then we heard the explosion. I was at home. I was at a neighbor's hanging out and playing because I was like 9 years old. Went home to get a drink, and I mean, you could just hear this noise, and we couldn't come up with a reasonable explanation. And I looked out the front door. Everybody's running down the street towards the school, so I ran with them, and then it was just devastating for our community.
Oh my gosh.
So then we were bused to Irving School for 2 years while the power company had to pay for a new building.
Well,
That's
the
on
new
the
building is much
nice.
different than
It
this.
is. It is. This one had a basement in it that I believe that's where we ate lunch. I can't really remember. I do remember PE in the basement. When you walked in the front door, there was a huge round radiator that you could walk up to get heat that kind of spread heat throughout the first floor, and there was a second floor, of course. So
Wow.
yeah.
Huh.
So
That is cool. Was there a bell in the turret thing?
yes, there was. There was. And that bell is on display at the new Lyle School.
Oh, is it?
After this blew up, somehow it got taken, and I think Dave Clark, one of his articles in the newspaper, they finally located it in the high school bus garage. They were using it at football games. So they got it back. So I'm going to put this down.
Okay.
So excuse me for a moment.
Yeah, while she's doing that, I do want to say something about what our podcasts are going to be. We do scour all our resources that are available to us about facts, and facts especially that we find interesting. But it's history, and history is hindsight, and hindsight is usually better than what was going on. But we need to remember that these people were people, and this is their lives. And so,
We're not coming from a place of judgment.
yes, exactly. And we respect that they were there, and that they were a part of Kewanee, and they walk the same streets we do, and that they may still have family around. And
Right.
so we're not making fun of anybody or anything. We're just discussing things we've found interesting in Kewanee history. So
Yeah.
just want to make that clear, because sometimes we'll talk about some people and they may or may not have done bad things or good things or whatever, and we just want everybody to know that we just found it interesting that
Our
this
main thing is
happened.
we want to share history of Kewanee with people and share our love of the history of Kewanee.
Right,
So,
right,
yeah.
right. So what are we going to talk about today?
So I thought we'd talk
Marianne?
about the brick. I know you met me
brick,
there.
yeah.
We had
Yeah.
that tour. What did you think of the tour?
I wish there was more left.
I know.
You know, it's just
So when Bob met us there, basically,
Bob Vericki
He-
he owns the building, and he allowed us to have a tour of
yeah,
it.
we went in the basement, and that's where the bar lastly was, I guess I would say. And there's no way to tell that a bar had ever been in that.
Right.
But there's just a lot of stuff that he stores there now. And you could tell there was a fire there. I know in 1971 there was a fire. And then the main level, you could see the bakery ovens.
Yes.
And on the upper level, you could see, like Dave Clark had said in his article, two men boxing. There was a
Right,
mural
there
on
was
the
a
wall that
mural,
you
but-
and I saw.
Yeah,
but
it's almost gone.
it's almost
Yeah,
gone. And you could see where there was a spot where they would check coats. It was just really neat.
Yeah, it was
So-
interesting. You could tell that things had happened there. I mean, you could tell that it was a used building that, wasn't. It was like there was still like
Remnants. But
remnants, right? Like the back wall or the north wall and the upper floor still was all wood, and it had like openings for like coat checks and stuff like that.
It was
and
pretty neat.
Yeah, it was neat.
I'm glad we had the chance to go in there.
Yeah.
And we may have scored some Pyrex. I'm not sure.
Made some connections for Pyrex. Yeah.
So I grew up in the neighborhood, like I said, when I was talking about Lyle School, and I also played a lot in the neighborhood where the brick is, and I lived close by.
And what's the address?
300 East 6th Street.
300 East 6th. So
So-
that is right north of the railroad tracks, right?
And
Okay.
where Walworth was.
And Walworth,
So
right.
that was kind of my playground, was 6th all the way up to like 10th or 11th, including Northeast Park, and then anywhere from like Main to East. That was kind of where we hung. And I knew a lot of kids that lived right by the brick, and they always talked about it, and I thought, man, that'd be neat to go in there. So I started asking
So when
questions.
you were there, it was all boarded up by then, right? I mean, obviously, because
Yeah, you
there
couldn't
was
see
nothing.
no,
there
you
was no
couldn't-
business there.
You
or
couldn't
nothing.
see. I think for many, many years it's been used as storage, and so
Yeah.
they boarded up the windows.
Right.
But some of my friends would talk about what they may or may not have seen, or people looking out windows. And,
Okay.
They were quite a bit older than me. So,
Okay,
the
so-
ones I talked to.
Okay, so the friends you had seen it when it was open.
Yeah, like they
Whatever.
talked about it being a club for African Americans,
Okay.
a social club and a bar.
Okay.
Which I knew, but I really wanted to find out when it was built and what was the history of it. So, a guy named Nick German, he built the brick. I think it was finished in January of 1923.
1923. So 100.
101 years ago. And he was involved in other things, and I want to talk a little bit about him later, but he really wanted to build, I think, a building for the neighborhood to have a dance hall, and orchestras would come and play. There was an orchestra called Packey, Packee, like the Packies.
Okay.
I don't know if they're related. They had an orchestra, and they would
Okay.
have dances there. And that lasted about a year.
Do you think they danced on the top floor?
I believe it was the main floor because
the
it was
main
not yet the bakery, and he named it National Hall. So that's how
Oh,
So
fun.
I did a lot of research in the Star Couriers, and so I was able to kind of put the story together. May not know everything,
Sure,
There's
yeah.
things that you aren't sure, and you're kind of guessing. But it was a dance hall for about a year. And then a guy named Major Roman came on the scene, and so Nick. Yeah, I know you know that name because you've been doing some research of your own on another topic. So he got involved, I want to say using probably the main level or the upper level at that point, because I know the dance hall wasn't happening anymore.
Okay.
So Major Roman, even though Nick German owned the building, Major Roman was using it as a rooming house,
Okay.
in quotes. And he was also doing some bootlegging there.
Okay, yeah.
And that went okay for about a year, and there were some legal issues for Nick German at his house. He lived at 620 North Elm, which was like 5 houses down from the brick,
Okay.
going towards 7th Street.
Going north.
Yeah, he was
Okay.
bootlegging in his house, and then you got Major Roman, who had the Roman Inn. They were both bootlegging, and so Nick was getting double the trouble. So he was arrested, I think, between 1920 and 1929 several times. I remember the police, in one of the reports I read, called it one of the most lurid places in the Kewanee underworld.
The where the brick is,
the building itself and what was going on. They called it one of the most lurid places in the Kewanee underworld.
And that was in the 20s?
Yeah, and I didn't know the Kewanee had an underworld, but okay. So this is the wording in the Star Courier.
And this is during Prohibition?
During Prohibition, yes.
Okay.
And then when I was doing research, there were so many people all over Kewanee making their own mash and bootlegging.
Yeah,
and,
right.
You know, some had better luck than others, whether or not they got caught. So, I think Nick kind of got tired of Major Roman and told him to hit the bricks.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. And so here comes a man named Harry Strom.
Strom.
S-T-R-O-M. S-T-R-O-M.
Okay.
He was also bootlegging in 1925 out of this building. I don't think it went by the Roman Inn anymore, and they weren't calling it National Hall, and they weren't calling it the Brick then, so I really don't know. But anyway, Harry Strom, I believe, was another neighborhood man, and he was selling soft drinks out of there. We all know what soft drinks are.
Mm-hmm. Well,
there. If you want to explain real quick.
Well, soft drinks. Well, there was soft drink bottlers,
like soda,
like carbonated beverages, like the brewery, Kewanee Brewery made ginger ale and I think Hilo or something like that.
Yes, which I wonder if that was like an orange soda or something.
I'm not sure. But there were soft drink establishments, but there was usually a back door. Is what I found out because I'm working on Prohibition.
So are you talking about maybe they put a little rum in their Coke?
No, I think they just had
drank
rum.
the rum. Okay. So, not judging. We still do these things today.
Yes,
it was
exactly.
just, you know, and you got to remember, Kewanee went dry in 1914, ahead of the national prohibition. So, you know, people were tired of it. They wanted to make money.
Right.
You know, a lot of times you had widows, you know, needing money. So, Harry was on the scene for about a year. I don't know what happened to Harry, but then here comes Major Roman, and he's again running the Roman Inn.
Okay.
I'm just going to call it the Brick because that's what most people refer to. I'm
know
just
it
going to
is.
call it the Brick at this time.
So,
and he was already married, but he had another gal that was with him. Her name was Edna Butler.
Edna Butler, yes.
And you know that name too, and
Yes.
that was allegedly to be his wife. I haven't figured out the whole family tree yet. But they were running the Roman Inn together for about a year, and the police were constantly at this building. And I would say from the time it was built until the time they left, I want to say there was usually some kind of a police presence in all the reports. They really, I'm just going to say, kind of seemed to have it out for this building. I don't know why. I'm thinking there was other things going on in other buildings. Maybe I'm just... that was just the one I'm researching right now. Maybe I don't have all the information. You know, I'm not saying they were being picked on. It was just, it was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. So Major and Edna, they were in business together again, a rooming house and bootlegging. And for some reason, Edna and Major ended up turning on each other. And I think Major went somewhere else and started a club somewhere else, which maybe we'll get into another time. Because it's a lot to talk about one episode. And then Edna, she was in front of the judge, and Nick German still owned the building then, but she went in front of the judge and said, if you allow me to go back to this building and just kind of run a rooming house, I promise you none of this other stuff's going to go on anymore.
Okay.
Well, about 4 months later, so Nick ran her out. So Nick really, between his arrests at home and at the Brick, he had just had enough. You know, and while this was all going on, I do want to mention he was working at Western Tube, which later became Walworth, and he also was a bottler for the Kewanee Bottling Works. So he did have other enterprises or ways to support his family. He wanted out, so he had also done some grocery work and had another bakery. I want to talk about that a little later because it's a lot, but anyway. When about 1926, he had the bakery ready. It was called the Kewanee Baking Company.
Okay.
And
so Nick German
ran.
He didn't just own the building.
He owned the building, but I don't think he ran the bakery. He didn't own the bakery, but the name of the bakery was owned by these two guys that came in on the scene first, and then a third guy came in.
Okay.
So one of the first ones that got involved was Joe Radovich.
Okay.
He was well known in Kewanee as a semi-pro baseball player, I believe, or like the Kewanee leagues. Really, back then, what was there to do? No TV.
Baseball was a big thing.
It was a big thing. And then another guy was Nick Sibrich, and I do believe he was also in the baseball scene. They ran the bakery by themselves for a couple of years, and then Clarence, his nickname was Lefty Hepner.
Okay.
He bought an interest in the bakery, and he was in there for about a year, and then I believe he went to Chicago to be a pro baseball player.
Oh,
so he was
cool.
involved. So we're looking at 1929 now.
Okay.
And so the bakery ran until 1938. So as far as I know, no club, no bootleg, and it was just a bakery until 1938.
And when we went there, we could still see the ovens, and it's kind of cool how
enormous.
They're huge,
built into a wall, just huge.
The Kewanee baking company. They didn't that wasn't like a neighborhood baker, right? That was like they baked for
grocers. Yeah, I found some neat ads. And we'll have these put up later, but this one says anger is a poison and very often, let me turn this around, is often caused by poisons from your food.
Anger is, well.
I did not know this. So they're basically saying if you eat our malted milk bread, it's the greatest harmonizer and your stomach's going to feel so much better. You're not going to feel poisoned. And you can get it from your grocer. Compliments of the Kewanee Baking Company. I just thought that was real interesting.
Anger is a poison. Okay.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
So
it is, but I don't know that well, there is some good bread.
So so the bakery ran until 1938. They ended. And then I'm not sure about the upstairs level. There was kind of a break, but around 1946, it became a club. There was a bar up there, and it was called the Musketeer Social Club.
Musketeers.
I don't know why they chose the name Musketeer.
And that was on the main floor.
No, it was on the second floor.
It was on the second.
So the main floor had the bakery, and I don't know in the interim what had happened to the bakery. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I need to research that a little more. But I know the upper level was a bar. It was an African-American club and bar called the Musketeer Social Club, and it was ran by Leonard Jordan and William Hubbard.
Okay.
And so
Jordan is a family name. I wonder.
I have some friends here in town. Jordan's. This would be like a great grandpa or great
great
grandpa.
They are related.
Yeah,
okay.
I know. Eventually, they wanted to get out of the business, so Leonard went out west. I'm not sure what happened to William Hubbard, and then Tommy Rowles, another local guy, he got involved, and he named it the Royal Deuces Club.
The Royal Deuces. I've heard of that.
Have you?
Yes.
Okay.
It was at our trivia night when we said something about the brick, and they're like, "No, it was the Royal Deuces." I'm like,
I always knew it. I always knew it to be called the Brick in the neighborhood.
Me too.
But I knew it was a club. I just didn't realize until I really did the research. So Tommy ran the club until 1968.
Okay.
Off and on. And I know off and on between the three guys there were some permit issues again.
Yeah.
But they would reopen. And then there was I do want to say Tommy, he was very supportive of the Walworth workers, and I know they had some grievances with the big guys, and so he would let them come and have meetings to talk about their grievances about whatever was going on, kind of like a union type hall situation. And I think you and I tried to find that little bridge that day. There's a wooden bridge that goes from the brick, near the brick, over to the Walworth.
Yeah,
over the
tracks. Yeah. And apparently the pylons for the stairs are supposed to still be there. It was overgrown.
Bob was trying to tell us, and we just couldn't see it.
It was overgrown.
When it's warmer, we'll try again before everything's overgrown.
Yeah.
So it was just interesting.
Yeah.
So,
that sounds like a...
I do want to say it was rumored that Ike and Tina Turner were at the Brick performing, and we have no proof, but I like to believe that it's true.
I could totally see it.
Yeah, they maybe on the way to Chicago. They also had connections here to Kewanee.
Okay.
Tina was related to some families that were here, that moved here from Tennessee. A lot of families, African-American families, moved here from Tennessee. So it's possible. My mother-in-law told me they had shake dancers come from Chicago.
What are shake like?
Well, they just kind of
Okay.
shake your groove thing.
Okay.
You know, and they would dance and entertain the groups. Eventually, I know Sam Ranella by this time, Sam Ranella, it was the owner of the building. I don't know when Nick sold it, but he thought people might get hurt if they were drinking and all the way up on that upper level.
Okay.
So he suggested they move it to the lower level. So again, I don't know what the main floor was used for. You had the ovens in the wall.
Yeah.
It was kind of empty. So the bar was in the basement by, the 60s.
Yeah. Okay.
So
And we went down the basement. If you're taller than me, you're going to hit your head.
for sure, there was like this much space over me, and I'm like 5'4".
Yeah.
It was very low.
Yeah. So
Just imagining it must have been cool in the day. It was big. It's just now it's kind of partitioned off, and there's a lot of stuff in there, so it's really hard to appreciate it. And I do think because of the boxing mural upstairs, it's possible they had boxing matches up there. So a lot of the neighborhood guys. I know Tony Munoz. He was a neighborhood guy that would box.
there was
Leonard Jordan. He boxed when he was a kid. He came to Kewanee. I think he was about 16. He left home down south, came up here, was a boxer, and then he ended up in Chicago boxing, and then he came back to Kewanee.
In my inner dealings with the prohibition, the guys that I am researching, the Hipperts, one of them was a boxing promoter, and so he traveled with like the Kewanee.
Are you
boxers.
talking about Mickey Tink?
I don't know who Mickey Tink is.
Okay, I was told Mickey Tink, and I've seen pictures. He is with some people that had involvement with the brick. So I do think, I think Gint Hippard and Mickey Tink were one and the same.
Yes, but there was a bar called Mickey and Tink's, and so that's just something we just need to.
So I know in the
We ran out of
African American
time.
community they called him Mickey Tink. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But no, his brother was a boxing promoter.
Oh,
Like all over.
Well, just like I think Francie Quagliano at one point was too. So yeah.
I didn't see his name.
So if you were hungry after your night of socializing and drinking, next door you could go to Brown's Cafe.
Okay.
On the back side of their house, it was Prater and Lily Brown. They would cook up some good food and you could eat and then go home.
Wow.
So yeah,
So the brick had many
uses and tenants over the years.
Yes.
I think sometimes maybe they did actually rent apartments, but when it was the Roman Inn, it was a little different.
Yeah. Right now it's just 3 open floors. There's no
nobody in there. It's
dividers.
just storage.
Yeah, it's only storage
Yeah,
from what we
yeah.
saw. So yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I didn't know if we wanted to do a fast facts real quick or
We can.
tell them how to contact us before I move
why
on.
don't you do that?
Okay.
Why don't you
Where's
tell
that?
them? Why don't you tell them how to contact us, Mary?
So you can contact us on Facebook at KewaneeMemoryLane. That is our Facebook page. Or you can email us at KewaneeMemoryLane@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you guys. If there's something that you want to learn more about or just any questions that you may have.
And also, if you're seeing this video on
YouTube.
on Facebook, we do have a YouTube channel, Kewanee Memory Lane, and we also have a podcast that will be available. I don't know where yet,
To be determined.
yeah, to be determined.
So we're going to randomly pick one of these.
you randomly.
Well,
pick.
no, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, Bob Richards, he made this book of fast facts. So let me see. I haven't really.
Just pick one. They're all.
Okay, I'll just say that the West Brick School, built in 1866, paid the head teachers $34 a month. Now, I wonder, can anybody guess what the West Brick School might have been?
The West Brick. Well, it was on the west side of town.
So what do you think it was?
Franklin?
Nope.
Where? What? Which one?
Irving.
Irving. I didn't go far
Irving.
enough west.
So they paid the head teacher $34 a month, and I don't know what that would be equivalent to now.
Oh, I did not. I don't have that looked up.
And then it was enlarged in 1889 and 1900. The building, not the salary.
Probably.
It was later torn down, and a new school was built in 1931 at the cost of $155,000.
Wow.
I know that I've had people ask me how Irving School got its name. We really do not know. I've done a deep dive on that. If anybody knows how Irving School got its name, please let us know. We would love to know.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
So,
well, that was
Julian.
fun.
But
That's interesting.
So Nick German, I just when I was doing this deep dive on the brick, just the history of it was really interesting, and you know how I'm into genealogy.
Yes. Right.
And so I really got interested in Nick. So he came to the United States around 1905. He immigrated.
Okay.
His name was Nicholas Germanovich.
Okay.
He was either Croatian or Serbian or Austrian, depending on the time.
Okay.
And I know there was a lot of war and a lot of
Sure.
whatever. It's whatever you filled out at the time for
Right.
your United States
Ethnicity.
Census and your ethnicity and stuff. So he and his brother Samuel opened up a grocery store at a meat market in 1913 where
Okay.
ghetto gas is. Do you know where? Well, so I'm sorry, guys. It is a local term. It's the Cenex gas station at the corner of East 3rd and Northeast Street. So
That's okay. Yes, that's what
So,
everybody calls
at
it.
803 to 805 East 3rd Street, they had a store there and they had a meat market. And Nick was also working at Western Tube at the time. And then he
Okay.
married his wife, his first wife, in 1914, and they lived above the store for a time.
Okay.
And I don't know what happened to Samuel. Samuel disappears. I can't find much about him.
All right.
But the German brothers reopened a store, but it wasn't his brother. It was him and Wasco, or Roscoe, but Wasco, Wasco Regula.
Okay.
At 516 West 5th Street, they had a full line of staples, fancy groceries, and cured meats, according to their ad.
On West 5th.
So you know where that Gillian's bike store was at the top of Park Street.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
So it's
Okay.
where that T is where that was.
All right. Okay.
Unfortunately, less than a year after they opened, they had a fire. Oh, I'm sorry, that was the wrong fire. Let me back up a minute. So 1917, the German Brothers barn that was still located on East 3rd, that they had a
Okay.
fire there. So anyway, the grocery store was doing pretty well for about a year and a half, and they had a fire there as well. They rebuilt, and it was a brick structure.
Okay.
And then Nick decided to get out of the grocery game. They lost about $7,000 back in that time. It was like 1918. That was a lot of money. That was a lot of money. And I'm not sure what Wasco did after that. I didn't research him. I don't know what happened to Samuel. But that's in 1921. Then Nick became the owner of the bakery at 5th and Chestnut, which later became
Okay.
Mrs. Smith's.
Mrs. Smith's. Okay.
And then he decided to, build that hall, which is now the brick, 1923.
Okay.
And so it just all ties together. I just thought it was interesting. I hope it makes sense.
Yeah.
So
That is interesting. I enjoy learning about like a major player that has to do with the places we visit.
Yeah.
I think that's fun.
yeah. And one of my family friends, he just passed away. He was a marble champ in the city, and before him, Nick's son Dugan, or Dragan Dugan, he was a marble champ in the city of Kewanee.
Okay.
And I just thought that was really
That
neat.
is cool. I wonder where they did that, like in the middle of the street here.
They just made a circle in the dirt somewhere
Yeah,
and did it.
I guess
I don't
so.
know. I don't
Yeah.
know. He later became involved with baseball, and I think he died maybe in the 80s. So
Okay.
Anyway, it was just an interesting.
That is an interesting deep dive into
Yeah.
the brick building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
if you have any questions that we can answer, probably can't, feel free to message us on Facebook, preferably about the brick or things we talk about here. I'm not going to solve your problems. But yeah, if you want to message us at KewaneeMemoryLane.com or at gmail.com, or message us on Facebook, that would be great. If you ever want to make a donation to the Kewanee Historical Society, you can message us at Kewanee Memory Lane and we can get back to you, or mail something to 125 North Tremont Street in Kewanee, 61443. So
I think that's it for today.
Yeah, I think so. I hope you enjoyed our episode about the brick, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for cruising with us today. We hope you enjoyed the show and you'll join us for our next cruise down Kewanee Memory Lane.